Thanks for tuning in to Conversations with Betty LaMarr, coming to you live from the Bluff City. Conversations is weekly wall-to-wall talk about all things Memphis and the Mid-South. Conversations with Betty include people just like you, living on the Bluff, doing what you do to uplift the city of Memphis. And now, your host, Betty LaMarr.
And again, thanks for watching and listening to Eye on Memphis. Eye on Memphis. We're live in the studios. A very special guest this morning, Ms. Michelle Whichlock. Now, let me tell you about Michelle Whichlock. Michelle wrote this wonderful book. I'd like to say bestseller, How I Lost My Uterus and Found My Voice. So today we are talking about cervical cancer, gynecologic cancers, because there's a lot of myths and misconceptions out there about HPV. And because I have one of the masters with me this morning, she's going to explain and break down these myths and misconceptions, ladies, so that we can share our experience if we're living with cervical cancer to other women, to little girls, so they can hopefully avoid having to deal with this. So we'll be right back after this break again with my very special guest, my girl, Michelle Whichlock, How I Lost My Uterus and Found My Voice. You're listening to the Eye on Memphis show.
Thanks for tuning in to Conversations with Betty LaMarr, coming to you live from the Bluff City. Conversations is weekly wall-to-wall talk about all things Memphis and the Mid-South. Conversations with Betty include people just like you, living on the Bluff, doing what you do to uplift the city of Memphis.
First off, thank you for having me and helping to educate the general public about cervical cancer and HPV. So I am a 2-time cervical cancer survivor, diagnosed at 26 with a reoccurrence at 29. And that's really what led me to my passion to educate women about early detection and ways that you can protect yourself and your loved ones, and ultimately led me to switch careers. And today I'm blessed to work for a medical device company that works both in the cervical cancer and breast cancer space.
Okay, good. I guess because of your experience, I guess both of our lives sort of kind of, because you never know when the universe, God, whatever we want to call it, it's almost like use a situation to send us in a different direction. Because I was busy interviewing entertainers.
Yeah.
Blair Underwood, James Brown, anybody that was an entertainer. If you ever Golden Globe Award winner, I had you in front of me. But medical now, it's like, I don't even care about that anymore. But let me ask you this, Michelle. What we're going to do, we're going to go back to the beginning. When you was first, even before you was diagnosed, how did you know something was going on with your body to take you to the doctor in the first place?
Yeah, it's a great question. So often cervical cancer doesn't have any early warning signs. And if there are, sometimes they're not obvious. So for me, I was in my early 20s. I had never missed a pap test. I had started having a pap when I was 16. And I just felt tired all the time. And every month I felt like things just weren't right downstairs. And as a lot of us know, women can be plagued with a yeast infection, which is just overgrowth of bacteria. I like to call it bacon bread. And so once a month, I just felt like I was at the gynecologist saying something just didn't feel right.
Something is baking here.
Something is baking here. Like, this is not right. And initially, it was little things like, it could have just been a bacteria infection, or it could have been an overgrowth of yeast. Nothing that is unusual for a woman to experience. And after a little while, she finally said, I feel like this is an indication that something's wrong with your immune system. Like, I want to take another look, like something else is going on.
Oh. Okay, so first, let's go back a little bit so people can understand. What is HPV? Because that's all this originates from the HPV infection. What is HPV?
Yeah, so HPV is the most common sexually transmitted infection today, and it is a group of viruses, and the truth is there's hundreds of strains of HPV. There is a handful that affect the genital tracts, and of those, each one of those strains, while they're a family of viruses, they're all different. So some are carcinogenic, meaning they cause cancer, and others are not. They cause maybe genital warts.
God.
And often, most of the time, men or women infected with an HPV virus do not know they're infected. They don't have any visible symptoms. And usually the body fights HPV like the common cold and eradicates the virus. Really where it becomes a problem is when the body it has an inability, the immune system does not fight off the virus, and you end up with a persistent infection of HPV of one of the strains that are carcinogenic. Is one of the greatest myths out there is, I personally hate the fact that we call it a sexually transmitted infection. Yes. Because it really causes this negative stigma, which prevents people from openly talking about HPV and ways to protect themselves. Because the reality of it is, it could be sexual contact, not intercourse. That's contact. Right. So skin to skin, touching, not penetration or penetration. And it takes one time with or without a condom, because a condom doesn't cover all male genitalia.
That's right.
And so there's still skin that touches. So, it really is about human contact, skin to skin, one time. So a woman could say, or man could save themselves till marriage, only have sexual contact with their marital partner. And if their partner had had any sexual experience, even just heavy petting,
Michelle,
they could have the HPV virus, and a female could be infected and therefore develop cervical cancer. Okay, and so I want people to understand that we need to talk about it as a virus and not
sex,
not connected to sex.
Don't forget the book, Michelle Whichlock, How I Lost My Uterus and Found My Voice, because she most certainly found a voice. Whether she would have this voice had she not lost her uterus is something we'll never know. But it's very good, and it's a very inspirational book, and it's very fun, and you'll get a lot out of it. Do not live in silence with cervical cancer. Help yourself, and you'll help others.
Thank you for watching Conversations with Betty LaMarr. Conversations are focused on people like you uplifting the city of Memphis. Visit Betty's YouTube channel, Betty LaMarr Memphis, for more great shows. Be sure to tune in on Mondays at 7 p.m. for Medical Talk with Betty on Xfinity Comcast Cable.
Live, it's the Eye on Memphis show with Betty LaMarr. Eye on Memphis is wall-to-wall conversations featuring top doctors and business leaders monitoring health and social disparities in the Mid-South. And now, your host, Betty LaMarr, featuring top doctors and business leaders monitoring health and social disparities in the Mid-South. And now, your host, Betty LaMarr.
Well, hello, Memphis. Thanks for watching and listening to Eye on Memphis. I'm your host, Betty LaMarr. And this is KWAM The Voice, FM 107.9 and AM 990. For those of you that like to watch and listen for your entertainment, we are streaming live on Facebook, Betty LaMarr Talk Show host, and KWAM 990 The Voice. My studio guest today is the bariatric queen herself, Miss Stephanie Williams. Many of you know her simply as Steph Lynn. Today we're talking about Stephanie's journey from obesity to becoming the bariatric beauty. We'll be right back after this word from our sponsor. You're listening to Eye on Memphis.
Live. the Eye on Memphis show with Betty LaMarr. Eye on Memphis is wall-to-wall conversation featuring top doctors and business leaders monitoring health and social disparities in the Mid-South. And now, your host, Betty LaMarr.
Our conversation today is about Stephanie's journey from obesity to the bariatric beauty. Hi, Stephanie. Welcome to Eye on Memphis.
Hi, Betty. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate this.
Okay, wonderful. I appreciate you. I'm so happy, and I'm always pleased. I love my patient testimonials,
Yes.
because I always say, the doctors can tell us all about the medical science, but it's something about the patients when they come on and they back up the science with their experience.
Okay.
So let's get this started. First of all, Stephanie, introduce yourself to our listening audience, and after which we'll get the show started with your journey.
Okay, wonderful. Well, hi, guys, and thanks for watching today. I am Stephanie Williams, and all of my friends and my family and amplifiers know me as Steph Lynn. And this is really an exciting time for me. I just can't tell you, and I can't wait to tell you throughout this whole segment how, weight loss surgery has impacted my life, changed it. And so today I'm just really excited to be here.
Today, I always like to give you all something to imagine, right? So today we're going to imagine that you have this perfectly healthy, well baby. Okay? You go home from the hospital, everything is just great. The next month, everything is great. 18 months later, we have a diagnosis of type 1 diabetes. Ladies, I always say when you have a baby, just because the baby is born a well baby doesn't mean there won't be other complications. Cancer, diabetes, all kinds of things can happen. So today, my very special guest is Madison Gomer and her mother, Heather Gomer. Now, Madison will talk to us about, she's going to take us through her journey living with diabetes type 1 since she was 18 months old. Now, I need Heather because Madison wasn't getting up through the night at 18 months old, checking her sugar, giving her injections. So this is very important because if you don't have a child living with type 1 diabetes, you don't have a clue. I always say that it's different than chemotherapy a little bit because when you get your chemotherapy, you go and get your chemotherapy. But with type 1 diabetes, your pancreas is not working, which means 24 hours a day, you have to make sure that you're getting your insulin. Now, we'll be right back with my very special guest, Madison Gomer, all the way from Arkansas to be on Eye on Memphis with Betty LaMarr. We'll be right back.
Thank you for watching Conversations with Betty LaMarr. Conversations are focused on people like you uplifting the city of Memphis. Visit Betty's YouTube channel, Betty LaMarr Memphis, for more great shows. Be sure to tune in on Mondays at 7 p.m. for Medical Talk with Betty on Xfinity Comcast Cable.
Welcome back. You are listening to Eye on Memphis, and this is KWAM The Voice, FM 107.9 and AM 990. So we're all over the place. We'd like to say hello to all of you all that are following us on Facebook. And, of course, you can download KWAM 990 if you want to listen on your computers and all of that good stuff. Now, again, my very special guest today, my girl, Madison Gomer. Madison was diagnosed with diabetes at 18 months old. So, Madison, before we just really get going here, why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are as it relates to our topic of discussion today, T1D.
Well, I'm Madison Gomer. I am 21 now. I've been living with type 1 for just a little over 20 years now. It's been a wild ride, but it's also been one that has taught me so much through the last 20 years, and I'm hoping it teaches me more through the next 20 years.
Okay, so what I really admire about you, Madison, is that despite diabetes, you are so successful. I've seen you on TV, talk show host, interviewing
Yes.
Daryl Green. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to share a secret with you, okay?
Okay.
Never shared it before. Okay, when I asked you, I said, Madison, would you go into the Ever Since mobile clinic and do the interviews? Daryl Green was in there, right?
Right.
Channel 13. Okay, he's a heavy hitter, right?
Yes.
So I'm like, I'm going to set Madison up to do that because she's so super confident, right? So she's just going to go in there and say, oh, you're Daryl Green, right? Okay, I'm interviewing you. So I set you up for that. And I was so excited to see the footage. And I said, she aced it.
Yes.
You really did.
Thank you.
But how did you feel when you walked in, and did you know who Daryl Green was?
Yes, I did know. I'd actually met him before then, actually at AM Diabetes and
Okay.
Endocrinology Center. So I'd actually met him before and kind of talked to him before. So it was just kind of like meeting him a second time.
Yeah, because he was so cute. You started the interview, and I love it. You said, you're Daryl Green, right? And he went like, yeah. So it was this little girl with this microphone in
I
my
know.
face. You did so good. You really
Thank
did.
you.
So how do you like TV?
Well, to be honest, at first I was pretty nervous, but I think once I kind of get started and just, feel the atmosphere of, what's going on and what we're doing, it feels better as we continue on with it.
Okay, and I'm going to be honest with you also. I noticed, now I'm on your Facebook page, and your brother played football and everything.
Yes.
And my attitude was, I don't want Madison to just be Madison Gomer, type 1 diabetes.
Right.
So that's why I was just really pulling for you to be on my TV show. Because I wanted you to be not just Madison Gomer, type 1 diabetes. I want you to be Madison Gomer, talk show host, interviewing TV, and you just jump right in, even though you didn't know my motive.
Right.
Yeah, just like, okay, good. And you were just really perfect for it. Well, let me ask you this, before we bring your mom in here shortly. What is a day like living with type 1 diabetes?
Okay, so like a day, depending on what's going on, a lot of times I can wake up at a pretty normal time in the morning, depending on if I have like a class or if I'm, depending on if my work schedule is changing or it's different, if we have something going on, I'll wake up in the morning. And one of the first things I do is, of course, see what my blood sugar is. That's the first thing that I think about when I wake up in the morning. And then based on whether or not it's a good number, kind of bases the rest of my day. So I'll go throughout my day, okay, if it's a little bit higher, then I'll start, okay, trying to bring it back down. So maybe by mid-morning or even lunchtime, I'm back in range. Or if it's starting out at a good number and when I wake up in the morning, then it's just, okay, let's do all I can to keep this in range.
Okay. Is there, with type 1 diabetes, is there ever a time of the day or night that you're not having to think about it?
To be honest, completely honest, no. It's always on my mind. It's always on the forefront and it's always there. You just have to find the good things, I guess, about it and just kind of be like, okay, well, my sugar's doing good right now. Let's do something to, let's be productive. Let's, go for a walk. Let's go see some friends. Let's work on this. And so that way I'm completely revolving around this number because you can't just let it control your life. You have to work with it and then learn to live with it and not make it be like, okay, this is my only thing that I have to worry about 99% of the day and just like let it, rule over you.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. At what point did I met you through AM Diabetes Center.
Yes.
And I'm so happy because I would not have met you.
Right.
Had I not been doing my work for them and you was doing a presentation. I mean, it was like at one of those, $100 a plate dinners,
Yes.
5-course meals, and
Yes.
Madison Gomer up front doing a bullet point presentation. I didn't know who you was at the time, but I don't, and really I could hear you, but we was eating and all the, the fine china going bing, 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 bing.
Yes.
But there was something about you, and I told Dr. Lateef, because I needed somebody for some reason.
Yes.
I said, what about the girl named Madison that was at the dinner. Okay. I never even met you, never spoke to you. There was just something.
Right.
She looked like, to me, she's like ready to go.
Yes.
Because I needed someone that could come out of the box hot. You know what I mean?
Right.
I didn't have to stroke him and groom him. You was ready.
Ready to go.
Because if you could do that in front of all those people, I
Yes.
knew you was ready to go. Were you nervous?
I was honestly incredibly nervous, and I actually had a piece of paper that I sat behind me on one. I guess it was like a table or a counter sitting back there. I had a piece of paper, and I had it sitting back there in case I forgot anything or blanked or zoned out. And I ended up not even looking at it till the end to make sure I said everything.
Well,
So I was really
wonderful.
surprised with myself.
Wonderful. I think you did a great job, and I think after that we started doing the TV and
Yes.
everything. But when your mom come in, I can relate to Miss Heather, because remember the first time you came out to the Sugar Run to co-host with me?
Yes.
I was happy too, because you young and you was able to run around with that microphone. I'm like, bye, and you were just going for it. But I was still always like, are you okay?
Yes.
Are you okay? Put your jacket on. And I can only imagine being a parent, knowing that you're type 1 every moment, trying to figure out, are you okay?
Right.
When you're at school. Oh my God, when Heather come in, we're going to really do this. And speaking of Miss Heather Gomer, we're going to take a break, because I just can't wait to bring her in, because we need to find out who was checking Madison's sugar at 18 months old while she was asleep, because she didn't know at 18 months old that she needed an injection or she needed her sugar checked. So when we come back after this break, you will meet Madison's mother, Mrs. Heather Gomer, Supermom.
This is HRTV. I'm Dr. Deneen Lester, and I want to talk HR with you.
Welcome back to Eye on Memphis. I'm your host, Betty LaMarr. Thanks for watching and listening. And our topic of discussion today, our conversation, is type 1 diabetes, T1D. And my very special guest is Madison Gomer. And now joining us is her mom, Heather Gomer. And Heather is really, like I called you, super mom, because what you had to do with a child from 18 months until now is absolutely, how did you do it? When you first, let's go back to that when you got the diagnosis. Take us there.
Well, there's actually, you have to just do it. This is her life, so you just had to stop everything you were doing and just push forward. You had to take care of a child. You couldn't let her not, of course, be cared for. People would ask, how do you give her a shot? Well, I want her to live. So, you just had to do it.
Okay, I'm going to only stop you for one moment, because we have a caller. So we're going to put our headsets on so that we can hear the caller. I forgot to explain that earlier. My bad.
It's all good.
Yeah, I was busy trying to make sure my hair was cute.
Same.
Same for you. It's a girl thing. Okay, what about you, Holly?
I agree. There's definitely days where it's, the last thing we want to do is get out of bed. But again, life doesn't stop for diabetes, so we have to keep moving forward and keep going forward.
Okay, well, Holly, we thank you so much for calling in to share that, because, of course, we don't want people to think that Madison Gomer is the only person on the face of the earth living with type 1 diabetes. But I work for AM Diabetes Center, so, I know better, okay? But thank you so much, Holly, and thanks for tuning in, and thanks for watching and listening.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Okay, now, Heather. Now, we was talking about when you first got that initial diagnosis. When you first got that initial diagnosis, what was your first thought?
Just sheer terror, fear. Is this child going to be able to just make it day to day? How is she going to, interact with people. How are people going to interact with her? And one doctor actually gave me a bit of advice, and he said, you don't have a type 1 diabetic. You have a child living with diabetes.
Yes.
He said the key word is living. He said you have to let her live.
That's right.
And so it immediately just clicked in my mind that, I have to persevere and push forward for this child. And, I always explain to people, I said, we got on a roller coaster ride on that day, July 8th, 1999. So we got on a roller coaster ride, and we have never gotten off. And, we've had ups and downs and twists and turns, but we managed.
Okay, now let's go to, like Madison said, it's a 24-hour thing, 7 days a week, 24/7 round the clock. So tell me what bedtime looked like for you when Madison was, at the 18 months when she was initially diagnosed.
Well, that was very scary, especially the first couple of months, because I didn't want to sleep at all. It was one of those things you want to ensure that child is alive. You're worried constantly. My husband and I actually took turns, and we actually set clocks, a midnight clock for him and a 3 a.m. clock for me. So I still get up at 3 a.m. Most days. I can sleep till about 4 now, but we would check her. We would take turns, and he would, like I said, do the midnight, and I would do the 3 a.m. And then, of course, she was up by 7, ready to go, and it was hard. I won't lie there. It was very hard.
Okay, now we've gotten up 7 o'clock in the morning. So let's move ahead. Did you have to work also during that time?
Yes, ma'am. Well, actually, I was still in college. I was a full-time student, and I worked full-time. And so I was, yes, very tough. But it was manageable. And, my husband, we had lots of help. And like I said, we just pushed through. We had a lot of faith and made it work.
So was, like Madison said, 24 hours a day. So it's almost like when you have a child with type 1 diabetes, the family has it too. Because I'm sure you didn't have a moment of your day that you wasn't thinking about her, be it at daycare or in someone else's care. Is her sugar high, is her sugar low? Are they checking it? So how did you deal with that, having to work and go to school, knowing that she was in someone else's care?
Well, no one ever cared for her better than me, I felt, because
Right.
I was 100% her caregiver. I mean, we had wonderful doctors. I have an amazing husband, a great mother that did great, with her, but no one took care of her like I did. So that was very hard. I didn't stop thinking about it. It was 24/7 every day.
Okay, so let's move forward. Let's go to the first day of school. When she started, be it kindergarten, Head Start, what was it like for you as a mother, knowing that you had to drop your kid off? Most people don't even have a clue what type 1 diabetes is. I mean, how could you get, I just can't even wrap my mind around, how do you as a parent get through your day knowing that you have a child that has a serious complication that could be life-threatening if someone doesn't know what to do? How did you handle that?
Well, I was very blessed. Madison, I teach, and Madison, of course, started school at the school where I teach at. So I was on campus, and we were also blessed with an amazing school nurse, Sandy Brown, if you're watching. She is fabulous. She learned the ins and outs of everything and how to take care of Madison. We got Madison actually on her insulin pump 6 months before she started kindergarten.
Thanks for listening to Conversations with Betty LaMarr. Visit our website, www.thebettylamarrshow.com. Email betty@thebettylamarrshow.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Betty LaMarr Memphis. We'll talk to you next week on Conversations with Betty LaMarr.